The candle had burned to a stub, trembling in the breath of the night. Leora sat by the cracked window, her knuckles raw from scrubbing stone floors all day, her eyes fixed on the faded ribbon she held in her hand. It was all she had left of her sister. Rain tapped against the glass like anxious fingers, and the wind howled through the broken eaves of the orphanage. Below, in the dark hallways, the others were sleeping, or pretending to. She couldn't. Not tonight. It was the anniversary. 3 years ago to the day, her sister Alara had vanished. One moment they were huddled together under their blanket, whispering stories of magical kingdoms to drown out the sounds of the matron's anger. The next, Alara was gone. No one had seen her leave. No door opened, no window broken. Just silence. And a faint shimmer of silver dust on the pillow where she had slept. They called her a runaway. They said she must have climbed out on her own. But Leora knew better. Alara would never leave her behind. Never. The other children had stopped talking about it after a few weeks. The matron forbade any mention of it, claiming it stirred nightmares and lies. But Leora had never let it go. She couldn't. She tucked the ribbon back into the tin box under the floorboard and stood, pulling the blanket tighter around her shoulders. Her eyes strayed to the sky through the broken glass. The moon was full and impossibly bright tonight, casting silver light across the hills beyond the orphanage. It made the shadows stretch and slither like living things. A cold gust rattled the panes. In the distance, something shimmered just beyond the fence at the edge of the property. A flicker, like moonlight dancing on a mirror. She blinked, then looked again. Gone. She exhaled slowly, reminding herself that exhaustion plays tricks on the mind. Still, a chill crept along her spine, making the hairs on her arms rise. Leora, a soft voice called behind her. She turned. Milo stood in the doorway, his oversized shirt slipping off one shoulder, his sandy hair tousled. "You're up again," he said, stepping into the room with bare feet. "Couldn't sleep," she replied. He didn't ask why. He never did. Milo had been here almost as long as she had, quiet, steady, always at her side. He never laughed when she spoke of Alara. He believed her, even when no one else did. "You saw it again, didn't you?" he asked, peering out the window beside her. She hesitated, then nodded. "Just a flash. Like something glowing." Milo rubbed his arms. "That's the 3rd time this week." "I know." They stood in silence for a while, listening to the wind and the occasional creak of old wood. Then Milo whispered, "Sometimes I think I hear her too." Leora turned to him, heart pounding. "Hear who?" "Alara." She stared. "What do you mean?" "At night," he said. "When it's really quiet. I hear a voice. It says my name sometimes. Like a whisper in the trees." Leora grabbed his hand, eyes wide. "You're not joking?" He shook his head. "Swear on my life." For a moment, neither of them breathed. Then Leora said, "We have to go. Outside. Tonight." Milo frowned. "Now? She might be trying to reach us. Maybe she never left. Maybe she's stuck." He looked uneasy but nodded. "Okay." They crept through the darkened halls, avoiding the boards that creaked in the rooms where the matron's cats prowled. Out the back door, past the laundry lines, through the garden of overgrown herbs. The gate at the edge of the property loomed ahead, rusted and chained shut. But there was a place near the wall where the boards had rotted. Milo helped her squeeze through, then followed close behind. The hills beyond were drenched in moonlight. Dew clung to the grass, and fog hovered low along the ground. Leora led the way, guided by instinct more than sight, her heart pounding in her ears. They reached the top of a slope, and there it was again. A glimmer. Just ahead, near the edge of the forest. This time, it lingered. It shimmered like liquid silver, hovering above the grass, flickering gently, as if caught in a breeze that neither of them could feel. They stepped closer, the fog parting around them like curtains. "What is it?" Milo whispered. "I don't know." Then the light began to move, gliding across the field, toward the trees. It paused, as if waiting. Leora took a step forward. "Wait," Milo said, but she was already moving. The light retreated into the woods. She followed. Branches scraped her arms, and thorns tugged at her nightgown, but she didn't stop. The silver glow led them deeper, winding between trees that stood like ancient sentinels. The air here was colder, heavier. And then, silence. The light vanished. Leora spun around. Where did it go? Milo caught up, panting. It just blinked out. A loud crack echoed through the trees. They froze. Then a whisper, not the wind, brushed past Leora's ear. A voice. So faint she could barely make out the words. "Help, me, Ilara," she breathed. But there was no answer. Another crack, closer this time. Then a flash of movement. A dark shape among the trees. And a scream. Not Ilara's. Milo's. Leora turned in time to see him yanked backward, vanishing into the underbrush as if dragged by invisible hands. "Milo," she cried, running after him. But when she pushed through the brambles, the forest was empty. No footprints. No broken branches. Just fog. And silence. Leora ran until her legs gave out, until her voice was hoarse from calling Milo's name. But the forest swallowed her cries. The fog thickened, wrapping around her like cold fingers. She collapsed at the base of a gnarled tree, heart pounding, tears streaking her dirt-smudged cheeks. "Milo," she whispered, her voice breaking. The forest offered no reply. But then, a rustle. She spun around, grabbing a broken branch from the ground, her hands trembling. "Show yourself," she shouted, though it sounded more like a plea than a command. A figure stepped into the moonlight. Not Milo. It was a woman, elderly, bent but graceful, her long gray hair braided with shells and dried herbs. Her eyes shimmered an unnatural silver, glowing faintly in the night. She wore layers of fabric that clinked softly as she moved. Leora gripped the branch tighter. "Who are you?" "I am called Lolongsita," the woman said in a low, melodic voice. "And you, Leora, are a child of the cursed bloodline." Leora blinked. "What?" Lolongsita stepped closer. "I have watched you from the shadows. You and your sister were marked from the moment you were born. The moment your mother made her pact." "What do you know about my mother?" Leora demanded. "She died giving birth to Ilara." "She died because she bore the second child of a broken vow," Lolongsita replied, voice darkening. "She thought she could escape her family's legacy. But curses run deep, Anik. Especially those made under moonlight." Leora's hands shook. "What curse?" The old woman bent down, drawing a symbol into the dirt with a stick. It looked like a twisted spiral surrounded by jagged lines. "There is a bloodline," she said, "descended from the Daong who once made a pact with the sea spirits. A sacred promise, to never spill blood during the full moon, or the Aswangs would rise and take what was owed." "Aswangs?" Leora's mouth went dry. "They are not just myths to frighten children," Lolongsita said. "They are real. Flesh and claw. They hide in human skin, feeding under moonlight. And they have been watching you." Leora backed away. "Why me?" "Because Ilara was taken, and you remain. You are the last daughter of the bloodline." A cold silence settled between them. "You speak of magic and monsters like they're real," Leora whispered. "But I'm no one. I clean floors. I sleep on a cot. I couldn't even save Milo." Lolongsita's expression softened. Even the smallest child can hold great power, she said. Then she reached into her pouch and pulled something out. A shell, small, spiral-shaped, glowing faintly with a soft blue light. This is your kabibi. Your mother left it with me the night Elara was born. It is tied to your blood, and to the sea spirits who still watch over you, though their patience wanes. Leora stared at it. What does it do? It shows what is hidden, said Lolong Sita. It will protect you. And when the time is right, it will lead you to what you've lost. Leora hesitated. The shell pulsed softly in the old woman's hand, as if alive. She reached out slowly and took it. The moment her fingers closed around it, a warmth spread through her chest, a sudden rush of memory, a flash of a lullaby her mother used to hum, a voice she hadn't heard in years. Why are you helping me? She asked. Because I owe your mother a great debt, Lolong Sita said. And because the Aswangs will not stop with your sister. They hunger for your blood. And worse, for what lies within it. The trees creaked around them. The fog shifted. Come, the old woman said. This forest grows dangerous. Leora followed her through winding paths, guided only by moonlight and the faint glow of the shell. The air grew colder, and the silence deeper. They reached a clearing, stone ruins half buried in moss. Lolong Sita stopped beside an ancient altar, placing her hands on its surface. This was once a place of protection, she said. But the wards are weakening. The Aswangs grow bold. Leora opened her mouth to ask what she meant, but then something moved in the trees. A rustle. Then a snarl. Lolong Sita turned sharply, her hand reaching into her cloak. Behind me, she whispered. Leora obeyed, clutching the shell tightly. The creature that emerged was not fully human. Its limbs were too long, its eyes gleaming red. Its mouth twisted into a hungry grin, fangs protruding from blackened gums. It hissed, and the sound made Leora's blood freeze. An Aswang, Lolong Sita murmured. A scout. The creature lunged. But before it reached them, Lolong Sita slammed her staff into the ground. A ring of light burst outward, forcing the Aswang back with a shriek. It scrambled into the trees, vanishing in an instant. They're testing the boundary, Lolong Sita said grimly. Next time, there will be more. Leora was shaking. I can't fight that, she stammered. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm not brave. I'm not strong. You will be, Lolong Sita said. You must be. For your sister still lives. Leora's eyes widened. She's alive? The old woman nodded. But not for long. The Aswangs keep her hidden, deep within the forest's heart. They plan to use her during the next full moon. Her blood will awaken something older than them all. What can I do? Leora asked, her voice cracking. You have the shell. You are of the bloodline. And soon, you will remember what your mother tried to protect you from. Before Leora could ask more, the kabibi pulsed in her hand. A vision flashed behind her eyes of Elara, bound in vines, her mouth open in a silent scream. A dark forest. A moonlit altar. Red eyes watching from the shadows. Leora gasped, stumbling back. The vision faded. Lolong Sita looked at her solemnly. It has begun. In the distance, a howl pierced the night, inhuman, long, and mournful. Leora turned toward the sound, her heart pounding. Something had awakened in the woods. And it was coming. The moonlight unicorn's journey prompt 3, growing tension. The fire crackled low inside the stone ruins. Leora sat alone by its fading warmth, her legs pulled to her chest, the kabibi resting cold in her palm. The soft, pulsing light from its core had gone still, as if even it had retreated into silence. Lolong Sita had gone to forage herbs to strengthen the ward. She hadn't said when she'd return. Leora's mind churned. She's alive. Elara is alive. But she was also captive. And the full moon was only days away. Leora pressed the shell to her heart, but no new vision came. Only the weight of a past she had never fully understood, and truths she wasn't ready to face. Her mother had lied. She wasn't just a kind woman who died in childbirth. She had made a pact. A blood vow. And she had left Leora with nothing but fragments, a lullaby, a ribbon, a legacy soaked in danger. Was it worth it? Leora thought bitterly. Did she ever plan to tell us? Did she love us, or was Alara and I just the price of her choices? She didn't realize she was crying until the wind carried a soft voice across the trees. Leora, she froze. The voice was faint, feminine, but twisted. Like it was caught between a whisper and a hiss. She looked up sharply. The fire flickered. The shadows stretched. "Who's there?" she called, standing slowly. No answer. Just the hush of the forest. She turned and gasped. A figure stood just beyond the edge of the ruins. At first glance, it looked like Alara, same small frame, long hair, white dress. But then the head tilted at an unnatural angle. The eyes gleamed red. "Come home, Leora," the thing said in Alara's voice, lips unmoving. "Leave the old one. Come home." Leora stumbled back, clutching the shell. The figure blinked and vanished. Silence. Then the trees behind her rustled violently. She spun. Nothing. Her breath came in short, shallow bursts. "You're hallucinating," she told herself. "You haven't slept." But deep down, she knew better. She was being hunted. And now they were using her sister's face. By dawn, Lolong Sita had returned. Leora didn't speak of the encounter. She just sat by the fire, hands clenched, gaze distant. "I felt them near," the old woman murmured. "They're testing your fear. They can taste it." Leora didn't respond. Lolong Sita sighed. "You are not your mother. And you are not her sins. But if you carry her silence, you will carry her fate." The words cut deep. That night, Leora dreamt of the orphanage. Of scrubbing the kitchen floors while the matron berated her. Of watching other children get adopted, one by one. Of clinging to Alara's hand as the world turned its back on them. She dreamt of Alara whispering stories in the dark, stories about unicorns that ran across moonbeams, and stars that granted wishes. They had promised each other they'd escape one day. And now, Alara was gone. Again. Leora woke to a scream. Not hers, someone else's. She bolted upright. The fire had gone out. Lolong Sita was nowhere in sight. And someone was screaming in the forest. Leora grabbed the shell. It pulsed faintly. "Show me," she whispered. The vision came in jagged flashes, trees, a snare of thorns, and Lolong Sita held down by shadowy figures with twisting limbs and sunken faces. "Aswangs," Leora breathed. She didn't hesitate. She ran barefoot through the woods, the shell clutched tight. Branches whipped her face, thorns tore at her skin, but she didn't stop. She reached the clearing from her vision, and froze. For Aswangs circled the old woman. Their spines jutted from their backs like broken bones. One had a serpent's tongue. Another was eyeless. Lolong Sita bled from the shoulder, breathing hard. "You will not have her," she growled. "Too late," hissed one. "The girl is one of us. She will come willingly, as her mother once did." Leora stepped into the clearing. "She's not one of you." The Aswangs turned, sniffing the air. The shell in her palm pulsed, and then glowed. One of the creatures shrieked. "The Kabibi! She carries it!" They lunged. Leora raised the shell. A blinding burst of blue light exploded outward, knocking the creatures off their feet. The forest shook. Birds scattered. Two of the Aswangs vanished into smoke. The other two fled into the trees, hissing. Leora rushed to Lolong Sita's side. You came, the old woman whispered. I saw them, Leora said. I had to. You're awakening, Lolong Sita said with a weak smile. Soon, your blood will call the old magic. Later that night, Leora sat alone again. Her hands still trembled. Her heart ached. She couldn't stop thinking about what the creature had said. She will come willingly, as her mother once did. What if they were right? What if part of her wanted to give in? To stop running. To stop fighting. To accept that this was her fate. She had seen the hunger in their eyes. The invitation. And a part of her, just for a moment, had understood it. Leora curled into herself, staring at the shell. It no longer glowed. I don't know if I can do this, she whispered. I'm scared. I'm angry. And I'm so tired. A voice spoke softly from behind her. You are not alone. She turned. It was Milo. Or, what looked like Milo. But his skin was pale, eyes sunken. Milo, she asked, standing. He said nothing, just stared at her. Then his mouth split into a cruel grin. I missed you, he whispered in a voice that was not his. Leora stepped back, heart racing. Where's the real Milo, she demanded. The thing shrugged. Somewhere quiet. But he thinks of you. He dreams of your blood. The Kabibi pulsed. Leora held it high. Leave him, she said through gritted teeth. Or I swear, the creature hissed, covering its eyes. The shell won't save you forever. The forest remembers. The moon watches. And with that, it vanished. Leora sank to her knees. Her best friend, her sister, her mother. All lost, changed, or hiding secrets. She was alone. But deep down, a spark remained. The light in the shell. The voice of her sister. The memory of her mother's lullaby. She would fight. Even if it broke her. Even if she had to walk into the dark alone. The days passed in a blur of ashen tension. The moon waxed fuller each night, its light no longer soft but cold, watchful. The Aswangs were preparing for something. Leora could feel it in her bones. She trained in the clearing with Lolong Sita every morning, learning how to cast protective wards, how to summon light from the Kabibi, and how to listen, not just hear, but listen, to the forest's warnings. But no matter how hard she tried, the power felt distant. Like it belonged to someone braver. Someone else. I'm trying, Leora muttered one afternoon after another failed shield spell left her flat on her back. Lolong Sita crouched beside her, uncharacteristically quiet. You carry too much weight, she said. Magic does not flow through clenched fists. Leora sat up, brushing leaves from her hair. Maybe I don't have what it takes. Then why are the Aswangs so afraid of you? Leora had no answer. Only more questions. That night, the forest changed. Fog hugged the ground, thick and unnatural. The air smelled of iron and rot. From far off, a drumbeat echoed through the trees, slow, steady, like a heartbeat beneath the earth. Leora stood watch outside the ruins, the Kabibi glowing faintly. She hadn't slept in over 24 hours. Rest, Lolong Sita said gently. If I close my eyes, I see them, Leora replied. Their eyes. Milo's face. Lolong Sita didn't respond. But she placed a weathered hand on Leora's shoulder. The curse feeds on fear. But it cannot touch love. Love. Leora wasn't sure what that meant anymore. Ilara was still gone. Milo might already be lost. And she barely recognized herself. She whispered, what if I'm the reason they're all suffering? Lolong Sita sighed. You are not the cause, child. But you are the key. The next day, they discovered the sigils carved into the trees. A full ring around the ruins, jagged, bleeding bark with ancient symbols. The ground beneath them was blackened. Animals avoided the area. "They're sealing us in," Lolong Sita said grimly. "Or preparing to summon something through." Leora felt sick. "The full moon is tomorrow. And the forest is turning," Lolong Sita replied. "Even the spirits grow quiet. We're running out of time." As they packed what little they could, Leora noticed something. Her kabibi pulsed in rhythm with the moon. "Faster now. Urgent." "Milo said something strange," she murmured. "When he wasn't himself." "What was it?" "He said I'd come willingly. Like my mother." Lolong Sita's face darkened. "Your mother was tricked. Promised healing in exchange for silence. When she broke the pact by giving birth to twins, she doomed herself. And you. Then why do I feel like I'm no different?" Leora asked, voice cracking. "What if the darkness in me is real?" "It is real," Lolong Sita said. "But it is not you." That night, as Leora sat by the dim firelight, she felt a cold breeze against her neck, and turned. Ilara stood in the shadows. Not an illusion. Not an aswang. Her sister. Alive. "Ilara." Leora ran to her, but stopped inches away. Her sister's skin was pale, and her eyes hollow. "You came," Ilara whispered. "I knew you would." "I've been trying to find you," Leora said, tears welling. I thought they." Ilara placed a finger on Leora's lips. "Shoo. I don't have much time. They'll notice I'm gone." Leora's heart pounded. "You escaped?" "Not really," Ilara said. "They let me come. They want you to see me. To choose." Leora stepped back. "What are you talking about?" Ilara reached into her dress and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. She handed it to Leora. Inside was a bone fragment etched with spirals. It burned cold in Leora's hand. "That's what they used to bind me," Ilara said. "Destroy it, and I'll be free. But if you do, they'll come. All of them. Tonight." Leora's hands trembled. "Do it, Leora." "Please," Ilara whispered. "I don't want to die alone." The moonlight unicorn's journey. Leora sat by the fire, the bone fragment in her lap, the kabibi glowing urgently in her hand. Ilara had disappeared into the forest again, either returned to the Aswangs or reclaimed by them. Lolong Sita emerged from the trees, eyes narrowed. "She came to you." Leora nodded. "She asked me to break the bone. She said it would free her." The old woman's face hardened. "They are clever. That bone may hold her prison. Or her soul. But breaking it may unseal something worse." "She's my sister," Leora whispered. "I can't just leave her like that." "You may not have a choice." Later, as the moon reached its highest point, Leora stood alone outside the ruins. She raised the bone to the fire, heart torn. "I need a sign," she whispered. "Tell me what's right." The wind screamed, and the flames flared black. The forest exploded in. "You're alive?" He nodded. "They let me go. To give you a message." Lolong Sita arrived behind her, staff raised. "Stay back, spirit." But Leora stepped forward. "Why would they let you go?" Milo hesitated. "Because I made a deal." "What kind of deal?" Leora demanded. He looked away. "They needed a soul in exchange for Ilara's." Leora's blood went cold. "What soul?" "I offered mine," he said. "But it wasn't enough." Lolong Sita growled. "You fool." "That's why I brought this," he said, pulling a dagger carved from obsidian. "I told them I could bring her soul instead." Leora's heart stopped. "Milo," she whispered. "No," he lunged. But the Kabibi flared with brilliant light, throwing him back. The Aswangs shrieked, blinded. Lolong Sita cast a protective shield, encasing them in a dome of glowing runes. Milo is gone, she said. What you saw was his shadow, his soul twisted by their lies. Leora dropped to her knees, shaking. They used him. They'll use everyone you love, Lolong Sita replied. Unless you stop them. Leora looked at the bone. At the fire. At the Kabibi in her hand. I'll go to them, she said. Lolong Sita froze. What? I'll give them what they want. But on my terms. No pact ends without blood, the old woman warned. I know, Leora said. That's why I'll bring the moonlight. She stepped into the dark. Toward the forest's heart. Where the unicorns no longer ran free, and the final battle waited in silence. The forest was not the same place she once knew. The trees bent toward her like they recognized her blood. The earth thrummed with power, a rhythm pulsing beneath her feet. Leora moved through the mist, alone, guided only by the glow of the Kabibi in her palm and the memory of Milo's eyes, how they'd turned hollow. Each step closer to the Aswang's den stole her breath. Not from fear. From recognition. This place called to her. The clearing opened like a wound in the heart of the forest. A massive stone circle stood in its center, ancient and cracked, with symbols scorched into the moss. Fires burned in copper bowls. A figure stood beside them. Ilara. Leora's breath caught. But this time, her sister wasn't fragile or scared. She was radiant. Clothed in silks darker than night, Ilara stood tall, her black eyes gleaming like mirrors. Behind her, a swarm of Aswangs crouched in silence, waiting. You came, Ilara said, smiling. Leora's hands trembled. What is this? Our birthright, Ilara said. Mother didn't tell you everything. Leora stared at her. You're not under their control? No. I'm their queen. The words hit harder than any spell. Leora took a step back. No. You were taken. You begged me to help you, I lied, Ilara said, stepping forward. They needed you here willingly. And you came. Leora's legs wobbled. The Kabibi pulsed wildly in her hand. Why? Because we are not victims, Leora. We were chosen. The blood in our veins, do you think it's cursed? No. It's power. But Mother feared it. Lolong Sita feared it. And you feared yourself. Leora's vision blurred. This isn't you. It's what they did to you. It's what they revealed, Ilara snapped. A low growl rippled through the crowd. One of the elder Aswangs, taller than the rest, stepped forward. Its eyes burned red. Horns twisted from its scalp like gnarled roots. You are the final piece, it rasped. She will take her place. Or you will. Leora raised the Kabibi, light flaring. Then come and take me. They charged. She didn't remember chanting. The magic came like a scream through her soul, the Kabibi flooding her with white fire. Her shield erupted just in time, flinging the first wave of attackers back into the trees. The ground shook. The trees cracked. And above, the full moon turned crimson. Leora cried out as a lance of darkness stabbed into her mind, memories that weren't hers. A vision of her mother, kneeling in this very circle. Blood spilling from her palms. Two cries echoing into the night, twins born under a blood moon. A pact broken. A curse inherited. You were never meant to be free, the horned Aswang said. You were meant to rule. I never wanted this. Leora shouted. But you carry it, Ilara whispered, stepping behind her. And you can't run from it anymore. The horned Aswang lunged. Leora met him with light, blinding, searing, pure. But it wasn't enough. He struck her with a backhanded blow that sent her crashing into the altar stones. The kabibi tumbled from her hand. Leora gasped for air. Her ribs screamed. "I'm not strong enough," she sobbed. Then, a whisper. Soft. Familiar. Milo. Magic does not flow through clenched fists. She saw it clearly, the moment he smiled at her, just before he was taken. She couldn't fight this for them. She had to fight this as herself. Leora crawled to the kabibi, blood on her lips, and whispered a name she didn't even know she remembered. Kalyawal Haitian. The sky tore open. Moonlight, not cold this time, but warm, radiant, poured into the circle. And with it came a shape. A creature born of mist and memory. Silver hooves. A mane of stars. The moonlight unicorn. Time stopped. The Aswangs recoiled. Even Alara stepped back, eyes wide. It stepped toward Leora, its horn glowing, and touched her forehead. The pain vanished. The fear lifted. And for the first time, Leora understood. They were never meant to rule in darkness. They were meant to balance it. She stood, hair glowing silver, eyes alight with stardust. She turned to Alara. "You don't have to do this." Her sister trembled. "It's too late." "It's not." The unicorn stepped between them, lowering its head. But the horned Aswang shrieked in rage, and drove a black spear toward Leora's heart. Alara screamed. And leapt in the way. The spear struck her instead. Time shattered. Leora caught her sister as she fell, eyes wide in shock. "Why?" Leora choked. "I chose you," Alara whispered, blood pooling beneath her. "I always did." The unicorn reared, and moonlight exploded from its horn. The Aswangs wailed, burned by light. The horned one crumbled into ash. And just like that, the battle was over. Leora stood in the ruins of the circle. Alara lay still in her arms. The moon began to fade. Lolong Sita appeared from the trees, eyes wet. She said nothing, just placed a hand on Leora's shoulder. The unicorn stepped closer, its eyes knowing. "You must take her place," Lolong Sita said quietly. "The balance must be kept." Leora shook her head. "No. There's another way." The unicorn bowed. Leora stepped forward and raised the kabibi. "I give back what was taken," she said, voice steady. "I choose light. I choose love. I choose her." The kabibi cracked in her palm. The light within burst out, into Alara's chest. She gasped. And opened her eyes. But just before the moon disappeared completely, the unicorn turned its head. Toward the forest. Something watched them. Not a swang. Not spirit. Something older. Darker. The trees bent toward it. The unicorn pawed the earth and vanished. Leora stared into the shadows. "What was that?" she whispered. Lolong Sita was pale. "Something that wakes only when balance shifts." Leora looked at her sister, alive in her arms. And knew, this story was not over. The storm had passed, but the forest had not forgotten. Mist still clung to the roots of the trees, and the scent of burned wood lingered in the air. Where the Aswangs once gathered, the circle now lay broken, stones cracked, symbols scorched clean. The moon no longer bled red. It shone white again. But the scars remained. Leora stood on the edge of the ruins, watching the sunrise bleed through the trees. Her clothes were torn, skin bandaged, and her heart fragile, but still beating. Beside her, Alara sat silently, face pale and eyes tired. She hadn't spoken much since waking. The magic that saved her came at a cost, some memories had scattered, others resurfaced in fragments. But she was alive. They both were. And that was something Leora would never take for granted again. Days later the village had changed. They didn't cheer Leora's return. They watched, silent, wary. News of the battle spread fast, twisted by whispers. Some said she was cursed. Others said she was chosen. No one knew the full truth. Only Lolong Sita. In the warmth of the albulario's hut, she laid out herbs and whispered prayers over Ilara's sleeping form. She needs rest, the old woman said gently. And time. The kind of healing magic can't touch. Leora nodded. I know. Lolong Sita poured tea, her hands shaking slightly. I saw your light that night. The Kabibi. The unicorn. No one's seen it in generations. Leora hesitated. It wasn't just light. It was a choice. A promise. To what? To protect. But not just from the dark. From ourselves. Lolong Sita looked at her for a long time, then smiled faintly. You've grown, Oppo. Leora looked at her hands. I didn't feel brave. I was terrified. Bravery is doing it anyway. Outside, the wind carried the scent of night jasmine. Leora stepped onto the porch, breathing it in, heart aching for someone who wasn't there. Milo. She still dreamt of him. Not always nightmares. Sometimes she saw him laughing beside her again, holding her hand, mocking the way she boiled rice. But when she woke, he was gone. His body was never found. Some part of her still hoped. And some part of her knew he had made his choice, too. He'd given her the moment to live. Later that week Ilara stood in the clearing where it all began. Leora approached quietly, a blanket in her arms. It's cold, she said. I can't feel it, Ilara murmured. Her voice still carried an edge, fragile, distant. Leora wrapped the blanket around her anyway. I'm sorry. For what? For not seeing what you were carrying. For thinking I had to carry everything alone. Ilara turned to her. I wanted to hate you after the unicorn chose you. I wanted to blame you for everything. But the truth is, you were always stronger. Not because of the magic. Because you loved. Even when it hurt. Leora swallowed the lump in her throat. I didn't save you. Yes, you did. You loved me enough to give it back. They sat together in silence, the wind rustling the leaves above. After a long pause, Ilara asked, Do you think we're safe now? Leora looked up at the sky. The moon was rising again. I don't know. Something else was watching that night. Something deeper than the Aswangs. But if it comes, she took Ilara's hand. We face it together. Final days in the village. Leora began training with Lolong Sita again. Not just in spells or herbs, but in balance, how to see signs, how to listen to dreams, how to feel when something shifts in the air. People came to her more often now. Hesitant, yes, but curious. A girl once mocked for being strange now held something rare, wisdom carved by fire. She didn't want to be feared. She just wanted peace. And slowly, peace began to take root. She planted a moonflower at the edge of the ruins. For Milo. Every full moon, she sat there and whispered to the stars. Weeks later Leora stood on the riverbank, the Kabibi fragment in her hand, no longer glowing, but still warm. Ilara approached, holding something wrapped in cloth. I found this, she said, revealing a feather, silver-white, soft as starlight. The unicorn. Leora took it carefully, breath-catching. It was real. It still is. Ilara met her gaze. What do we do now? Leora looked at the river, its surface smooth and endless. We keep walking. We protect what we love. We learn from what we lost. They sat side by side, as the wind carried fireflies around them like tiny stars. And for a moment, everything was quiet. Everything was whole. Final scene that night, Leora dreamed again. But not of pain or fire or running. She stood in a vast field of silver grass. The unicorn was there, waiting beneath the moon. Milo stood beside it, smiling, his eyes kind and bright. "You found the path," he said. Leora stepped forward. "I wish you had, too." "I did," he whispered. "Through you." She touched his hand. It passed through, like mist. "Are you real?" she asked. He smiled. "I was never gone." "Not really." "You carry us all forward, Leora. The light. The truth. The love." She woke up with tears in her eyes. But no fear. Only peace. Final line, and when the moon rose again, she did not look away, she rose with it.